So we all have a favorite style of fragrance. Some people really like sweet fragrances, some people really like woody fragrances. I consider woody fragrances to be one of my very favorite styles. So tonight I'm going to be introducing you guys to Oud Imperial by Perris, Monte Carlo. So if you're a fan of woody fragrances like I am, this is going to be a review you do not want to miss. Hey everybody, welcome back to Real Scent Review. Tonight I am going to be reviewing Oud Imperial by Perris, Monte Carlo. It's one of my very favorite woody compositions, and this one here encapsulates just about everything I love about that style. Now this is a niche fragrance. Don't let that intimidate you. Usually when people think of niche, they think of very, very high, often overpriced fragrances. But this is one of those rare exceptions where we get a very high quality product at a pretty reasonable price. So without any further ado, let's get into this one. Starting off with the box here, Oud Imperial, Perris, Monte Carlo. We have the concentration and the volume here at the bottom of the box. And all around it has this trellis or quatrefoil style pattern with the Perris Monte Carlo symbol being the main feature. Bottle here has the same trellis or quatrefoil design with the Perris Monte Carlo symbol here etched into the front of the bottle. On the bottom we have the volume and some more information. The bottle is decently heavy, made of glass. The bottle cap, I think it's plastic on the inside, but it has an outer plating of some sort of metal. Very good quality cap, very good quality bottle. The cap does not click into place, and there is a little bit of friction on the cap, but still, again, one of those bottles that you just don't want to ever pick up by the cap. I keep mentioning that in all of my videos because you'd be surprised how many people make that mistake and they end up dropping the bottle and their house ends up smelling really good for several months afterwards. So let's get a spray out of this one, shall we? Great distribution of the atomizer. It's strong. It's not the longest, it's not the widest, but it is strong and it gets the job done very well. Wonderful strong smell here to begin with. So the notes that I detect are the following. In the top, I get oud. In the mid, I get some patchouli, myrrh, and some birch tar. And in the dry down, I get some papyrus and some cedar. So in the opening here, we're met with a huge blast of oud. Yes, it smells like real oud, but this stuff here is more of the astringent, sour oud. Maybe some people would say slightly medicinal oud, compared to the barnyard animalic type. We get a huge burst of that woody, astringent, sour oud in the top here. Smells very good. However, if you're not a fan of oud, if you're new to ouds, this might turn you off. But as we gradually get into the mid here, we're met with some patchouli. Now this particular iteration of patchouli does not have that spicy, dark cacao type of thing going on. This is more of an earthy patchouli here. In this particular fragrance, they take those earthy, slightly damp facets of patchouli and they include them. I think it works very, very well here. This is also paired with some resinous myrrh, so it adds an ever so slight piney accord to this, lemony and resinous, very, very nice. And as we gradually start dying down here, birch tar makes itself prominent. So the birch tar in this particular fragrance smells like slightly charred, slightly burnt wood. If you've ever put out a campfire and you've come back several hours later, kind of what that reminds me of in the mid here. Although this is not overpowering or dirty smelling. Because of that myrrh with the pininess and slight citric accord, also has that resinous quality, keeps it from going like dirty smoke in the mid here. All in all, very well blended so far. And in the dry down, this is all about the papyrus, but more so the cedar. So the papyrus is gonna give it a smoky, kind of clean incense feel, reminiscent of the smell of pencil shavings, for example. That's definitely present, but the cedar, this dries down into a very heavy, concentrated, woody cedar note. The cedar completely dominates all of the other notes in the bottom here. So the cedar, very green smelling, very woody, but this takes it to another level. Like I said, it's a very concentrated cedar. We get a little bit of those fresh, slightly minty characteristics of cedar with that green, sharp woodiness, ever so slightly incensey as well, along with the papyrus, and also that pencil shavings thing is continuing on here, although that particular characteristic starts to die down in favor of more green, woody, and slightly camphoric cedar characteristics. This is a very cedar-heavy fragrance in the dry down, and if you love wood like me, I think you're gonna love this fragrance. So the name is Oud Imperial, but I do not think oud is the center point of this fragrance at all. I do not think it is all about oud. The oud exists in the first part of the fragrance. Well, I should say it does exist in the entire lifespan of the fragrance, but it's definitely most prominent at the top. And like I said, it's not one of those barnyard or animalic style ouds at all. There's nothing animalic whatsoever about this. I'm not sure why some reviewers say that this is animalic and barnyardy, because it's really not at all. Also, I don't think this is real oud. The price just isn't anywhere near what a company would charge for including real oud in a fragrance. And honestly, 99.9999999% of fragrances out there do not use real oud. So I'd like to talk about real oud for a second. Oud, also known as agarwood, is infected wood of the Aquilaria tree, which grows in India and other regions of South Asia and even Southeast Asia. This tree gets infected, they cut out those infected pieces of wood from the tree, they put them through a distillation process to get the actual oil out of the wood, and then that oil is known as concentrated oud oil. That's what's considered real oud. Depending on the tree it's from, depending on which region it's grown in, has very different scent characteristics. The type of oud that smells barnyardy and fecal and very animalic tends to come from the Assam region of India. Most people just call it Indian oud. That's not what this smells like. This definitely leans more woody, slightly medicinal, slightly astringent. That is most reminiscent to me of certain varieties of Vietnamese oud oil. However, there's a big caveat here. Natural oud oil is extremely complex smelling. For example, Thai oud, that can start off very sweet with an almost vanilla type of characteristic, and it can dry down into something that smells completely different. Pure oud oil, like I said, very complex. That's why in a lot of different regions of the world, people use pure oud oil as perfume. They rub it on themselves because the smell of oud itself is so complex. But what mostly happens in the Western world is they synthesize chemicals in a laboratory that are made to smell like real oud oil. So, like I said, real oud oil has a wide array of scent characteristics. In the Western world, laboratories tend to take one or two of those characteristics and create an entire oud note, and that's what they put in perfumes like this. So in this particular case, I think they were going for that very woody, astringent, medicinal style that can be found in some Vietnamese oud oils. They took that one characteristic and put it in this perfume here. So although it is most probably a laboratory synthesized oud note here, it still smells very high quality. It smells good, just not as complex as real oud oil. Also, I must say, because of the smoky and resinous facets in this, it does remind me of the burned agar wood chips. So in a lot of parts of the world as well, they burn agar wood chips, which is oud chips that have not been distilled. Definitely this reminds me of that as well. There is a distinct smokiness to this. So just keep that in mind. When somebody says a fragrance smells like oud, that can be very non-specific. It's like going into a kitchen and saying, oh, it smells like food in here. You know, there's just such a wide variety of ouds. Anyway, thanks for sticking around throughout that spiel. Back to the fragrance at hand here. Out of the entire world of oud fragrances, I do not think this is challenging at all. I don't even think it would make a list of the top 100 most challenging oud fragrances. However, if you're used to oud fragrances like Versace Oud Noir or Gucci Intense Oud, this will probably be very strong for you. You probably won't like it. I could compare this to a fairly well-known fragrance, Dark Oud by Monte. Dark Oud opens up with that extremely medicinal band-aidy oud. This oud here is the same style, although it's not nearly as medicinal, and I don't get any of that band-aid smell whatsoever in this. But like I said, the oud is not the main center of attention here. This is more so a woody, smoky cedar fragrance, if you ask me, because of that resinous myrrh in the middle here that gives way to some smoky incense and that very concentrated cedar in the bottom, which I absolutely love. But still, if you're new to ouds, this will shock you. And that brings me to the next part of the review here, the performance. This is a monster performer. This is the eau de parfum version, by the way. Projection on this is very heavy, beyond an arm's length for the first hour. This is a very invasive scent for the first hour. If you spray this on your arm, for example, that is all you will be smelling for the next several hours. And for that first hour, projects way beyond an arm's length. For the second hour, it projects at an arm's length. And for the third hour, it's a little bit less than an arm's length, maybe elbow's length. Point is, the projection on this is insane. And the longevity, also 10 plus hours. This is a 10 plus hour scent. You really cannot ask for better performance than this fragrance here. It's not the strongest performer out there, but like, why would you need anything stronger than this is my question. Crazy performance, very, very, very good. It's an eau de parfum concentration, but the cedar note, especially the cedar note, feels like it's more of a parfum concentration. It's very concentrated, very heavy, very woody. This is gonna be for wood lovers. Now, if you've made it this far into the review, you probably already realized this is the eau de parfum version. There is also an extrait version from the same company. I don't own that, I've never smelled it, but keep that in mind, please. And so the performance is excellent. The quality is very high here, leading me to the price now. This 100 milliliter bottle can be had on Fragrance Buy for right around $100 US right now. It's like $101. I think that is a more than fair price here. Very good quality. The performance is spectacular, and it just smells so good, especially if you're a lover of woody fragrances. So starts off with oud in the top. It gets a little bit damp and earthy in the middle, definitely resinous, and we get that burnt wood accord, smoky in the bottom, and very concentrated cedar. If that style of scent sounds good to you, this is a very good place to start, I would say. And I would even recommend this to you if you have other woody, earthy fragrances in your collection. This is just a stunner as far as I'm concerned, and I highly recommend it to everybody except for beginners. But like I said, I don't think it's the most challenging fragrance out there. I think if you're anywhere above a beginner collector, you could check this out and you're probably going to appreciate it. But please, by all means, test this out if you can. It's a niche fragrance, so it's not going to be sold in every perfumery out there, but it can be done. You can order decants online. So yeah, if you get a chance to sample this, I would recommend doing that before you buy it. But like I said, it's not the most challenging thing out there. I think it's a very high quality woody scent, one of my favorites, and that's been Oud Imperial by Perris, Monte Carlo. Thanks for tuning in, guys, to this review of this amazing fragrance here. Until next time, keep it real.